She walked in like she'd been here before. Not the bar, maybe, but the way her shoulders knew how to claim a space without trying. The air seemed to slow around her. Noticing her wasn't a choice. It was automatic. I was wiping down the counter when our eyes met. Just a quick glance, but long enough for me to register the faint smudge of rain on her sleeve and the kind of tired you can't fix with a nap. Mid-40s, maybe older, but there was something in her that made me forget the numbers. She slid onto the stool at the far end. No phone in her hand, no pretending to scroll to avoid conversation. Just her, tracing the rim of the glass I poured for someone else, like she was memorizing its shape. "What'll it be?" I asked. Her lips curved, not quite a smile. Surprised me. I raised an eyebrow. Dangerous request. She didn't blink. "I'll take my chances." The shaker clinked in my hands. I could feel her gaze, steady but not invasive, like she was reading me the way most people read menus. When I slid the drink to her, she tilted her head, tasting with her eyes first. "You made this for me?" she asked, as though the answer mattered more than the drink itself. "Your drink's on me," I said before I could stop myself. Then, with a grin I didn't mean to be bold, "If you are too." The corner of her mouth twitched, surprise, amusement, maybe both. She didn't laugh, but her eyes softened in a way that felt more dangerous than laughter. "That's forward," she murmured, but she didn't look away. "That's honest," I replied. She sipped, and for a moment, neither of us moved. The bar was nearly empty. A few murmurs from a couple in the corner, the low hum of the fridge, a jazz track looping lazily in the background. The world outside was wet and dark, streetlights blurring in the rain. But here, the only thing sharp was the air between us. "You always talk to customers like that?" she asked. "Only the ones who don't look like they belong here." "And I don't." "No," I said. "You look like you belong somewhere quieter. Warmer." Her eyes lingered on me, searching for something, though I wasn't sure if it was in me or in herself. "Maybe I came here because it's not quiet," she said finally. Something in her tone, low, careful, made me want to ask what she was running from. But instead, I poured her another, letting the silence stretch, letting her decide whether to fill it. "I used to come to places like this when I was your age," she said after a while. "Sit at the bar, watch people, wonder what it would feel like to be noticed." I leaned on the counter. And now I notice who's watching. I swallowed, unsure if she was warning me or inviting me closer. My hand brushed hers as I slid the glass forward, not by accident, not exactly. She didn't pull away. The rain outside grew heavier, a slow percussion against the windows. In the faint reflection on the glass behind her, I could see us, two strangers with no reason to keep talking and no reason to stop. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and I caught the faintest change in her expression, something like hesitation, something like a door closing in her mind. She didn't answer it. Instead, she looked back at me and asked, quietly, "When do you get off tonight?" Before I could speak, the door swung open behind her. I froze. The door creaked, letting in a gust of cold air and the smell of wet asphalt. A man in a hood passed by without noticing her, heading straight to the far end for takeout. She didn't move, didn't even glance back, but I caught the tiny unclenching in her shoulders. "Friend of yours?" I asked lightly. She shook her head. "Not anymore." Her fingers returned to the glass, tracing the condensation. I wanted to ask what "not anymore" meant, but her tone made it sound like a story that wasn't meant for bars and strangers. Still, I had pieces already. I knew her first name, Anna, from the card she'd left when paying for a coffee here months ago. She'd come in once in the afternoon, hair windblown, ordering a cappuccino she barely touched. I'd remembered because she sat in the corner, staring at nothing, for nearly an hour. Tonight, she looked different. Not exactly lighter, but less careful. "You live around here?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I used to," she said. "A long time ago. That why you came back?" Her eyes flickered. "You remind me of someone." I laughed softly. "Good someone or bad someone?" She didn't answer right away, just studied me the way you study a photograph you're not sure you should keep. "Someone I probably shouldn't have thought about as much as I did," she said finally. The words landed between us, heavy and quiet. I felt my ears warm. There was something about her, not just the age gap, though that was obvious enough. She had lines at the edges of her eyes, the kind you don't get from frowning. She had a way of pausing before she spoke, as if she was measuring what it would cost to be honest. And I knew why this was risky. Not just because she was probably twice my age. Not just because of the way she watched me. It was because she used to come over to my house years ago, not for me, but for my mother. They'd been close. And I had noticed her then, too. You don't remember me, do you? I said. That made her look up sharply. Your son's friend, I said. The quiet one who never stayed for dinner. Her lips parted, just a little. Then she smiled, but it wasn't the same as before. This one was slower, tinged with something like disbelief. You've changed, she said softly. So have you, I replied. We didn't speak for a moment. The couple in the corner paid and left, leaving the bar nearly silent except for the jazz and the rain. Does he know you're here? I asked before I could think better of it. No, she said, almost in a whisper. And he won't. That should have been my signal to step back, to pour another drink for someone else, and let her slip back into the night. But instead, I leaned closer. Her perfume was faint, but it hit something deep in my memory. Warm kitchens, late-night laughter from another room. She noticed the way my hand rested on the bar near hers. Her thumb grazed the wood, close enough that the air between our skin felt charged. You're still quiet, she said, but not shy anymore. I almost reached for her hand. Almost. The rain outside softened, leaving just the two of us, the empty bar, and the weight of things we weren't saying. And then, without touching me, she tipped her glass toward mine. To what? I asked. Her eyes met mine. To not asking questions we don't want answers to. The clink of glass was soft, but it felt louder than the storm ever had. Her glass was still halfway full when the bell over the door chimed again. This time, I didn't turn right away. I was too busy watching her fingers trace the lip of the drink like she was deciding something. Then I heard a voice I recognized. Anna. She went still. The kind of still that isn't just surprise, it's calculation. A man in his 50s, tall, with damp hair from the rain, stood in the doorway scanning the room. His gaze landed on her. Thought that was you, he said, walking over. David, she replied evenly, as if saying the name might slow him down. I looked between them. The way his hand brushed her arm without hesitation, the way she didn't flinch but didn't lean in either. Husband? Ex? Something in between. You didn't say you were in town, he said. Didn't plan to be. Her voice was calm, but her eyes flicked toward me for just a fraction of a second. A signal, a question, maybe a warning. Bartender, he said, turning to me. Another round for her? She covered her glass with her hand. I'm fine. He looked at her, then at me, and I swear I saw something tighten in his jaw. How do you two know each other? Anna smiled faintly. We don't. Not really. I forced a polite shrug. Just a customer. He gave a slow nod, but didn't move. The air felt heavier, and the jazz track suddenly seemed too loud. Eventually, he said, I'll wait outside, and walked out. The door shut, but neither of us breathed right away. Who was, I started. No questions, remember? She said, but there was no edge in it this time. We were closer now without having moved, the way people get when they've just passed through something tense together. Her eyes searched mine, as if to make sure I hadn't shifted in the last 30 seconds. You should go, I said quietly. She tilted her head. You want me to? I didn't answer. The rain picked up again, hammering against the windows. She leaned in slightly, just enough that I could feel the warmth of her. My hand twitched toward hers before I caught myself. This is stupid, I muttered. Probably, she said. But I don't want to stop. We didn't kiss. But for 3, maybe 4 seconds, we were in that dangerous space where the only thing keeping us apart was hesitation, and hesitation was thinning. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. It was my roommate. Your mom's looking for you. I slid it away without replying, my pulse suddenly sharp in my ears. She noticed the shift in my face. You're thinking about walking away, she said. I met her gaze. You're thinking about pulling me closer. She didn't deny it. The door opened again, cold air sweeping in. This time, David's voice was sharper. Anna now. She stood, slipping on her coat without looking back at me. But as she passed, her hand brushed my wrist, a barely there touch that burned longer than it should have. Then she was gone. It had been 4 days since she'd walked out with him. 4 days of the same bar stools, same playlist, same hours. Except every quiet moment, I caught myself scanning the doorway. On the 5th night, she walked in. No rain this time. Just her, hair pinned back loosely, coat unbuttoned, eyes locked on me before she'd even reached the counter. "You're working late," she said, sliding onto her stool like nothing had happened. "I always do," I said. "You usually don't come back." Her mouth twitched. I shouldn't have. The bar was empty except for a guy nursing a beer at the far end, headphones in. "Who is he?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Who?" "David." She paused, like she was testing whether to hand me a truth or a lie. "Someone who thinks he still matters." That didn't answer the question. Her voice dropped. "My ex-husband. It shouldn't have mattered, but it did." A strange mix of relief and something darker hit me, something I didn't want to name. "Was he the reason you left so fast?" She leaned in slightly, her perfume hitting me again. "He's the reason I leave fast from a lot of places." We were too close now. The air between us was tight, like it would snap if either of us moved an inch more. "You've been in my head," I said. "Every night since you left." "That's dangerous," she murmured. "I don't care." Her eyes searched mine, and something gave way there, like she'd been holding a door shut for years and my words had just loosened the lock. "I told myself I wouldn't," she started, then trailed off, shaking her head. "Wouldn't what?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Wouldn't let it happen again." My pulse spiked. Again. She sat back a little, but her gaze stayed on me. "You were too young then. I was lonely. And stupid. And I swore I'd never." She stopped, swallowed, and her hands clenched together on the bar. "You think I don't remember?" I said quietly. Her eyes flickered, shock, then something like longing. "Do you?" "Every detail," I said. "The way you looked at me that night in my kitchen. The way you—" She put a hand over mine to stop me, but the contact only made it worse. Skin warm, grip firm, like she didn't know if she was holding me in place or herself back. We were leaning in now, close enough I could feel her breath. "Tell me not to," I said. She hesitated. Too long. The door banged open. Cold air, voices, 2 men laughing their way inside. We both jerked back, her hand slipping away like it had never been there. But her eyes, they stayed locked on me. The 2 guys who'd barged in earlier left after a quick drink, leaving the bar quiet again. But the moment had already cracked. Anna kept her hands folded, eyes fixed on the glass in front of her, as if what almost happened could be erased by sheer will. I was about to break the silence when my phone buzzed. From, "Mom saw Anna today. Didn't know she was back. Call me." I felt my stomach drop. "She's asking about you," I said, slipping the phone away but watching Anna's face carefully. Her shoulders tensed, not like I'd caught her, but like she'd been expecting this moment. "And what did you tell her?" "Nothing. Yet." Her gaze sharpened. "Don't." Something in her tone wasn't just caution, it was fear. "Why? What are you not telling me?" She exhaled slowly, as if deciding whether the truth was worth saying. "Your mother. She doesn't know the whole story." I frowned. "About what happened before?" Her lips parted, then closed again. "About who I was then." I waited, heartbeat loud in my ears. Finally, she said it. "David wasn't just my husband. He was her boss." The air between us felt colder. "You mean?" "She found out about us. That night, you remember?" She did too. But she thought it was him. The realization hit hard. My mom had spent years thinking her friend had been sleeping with her boss, not her son's friend. And Anna had let her believe it. "That's why you left," I said slowly. "That's why I had to," she corrected. If she knew the truth back then, she stopped, biting her lip. It would have ruined more than one life. I leaned back, the weight of it all pressing into my chest. "So you lied. To her. To him. To me." She flinched. "I didn't lie to you. Not telling me is the same thing." Her voice cracked, just barely, when she said, "I didn't want you to remember me like that." The urge to stand up, to walk away, was strong. But so was the pull to stay, to understand, to close the space between us and demand more answers. Does she know you're here tonight? I asked. No. And if she does, Anna's voice went quiet. It's over. Something in her eyes wasn't just fear now. It was resignation, like she'd already imagined the fallout and accepted it. I looked at her, really looked. The woman who had been in my head for years, who'd just blown open everything I thought I knew. And despite the sting in my chest, despite knowing this should be the point where we cut it off for good, I wanted her more than ever. Then maybe, I said slowly, it's worth the risk. Her eyes widened, not in surprise, but in that sharp, hungry way she'd looked at me before. And then the bar door opened again. This time, it was my mother. She froze before she even turned her head. I didn't. My eyes went straight to my mother as she stepped inside, shaking off her umbrella, her gaze landing first on me, then on Anna. Wow, Mom said after a beat, her voice calm in that way people get when they're holding something sharp behind their teeth. Didn't expect to see you here. Anna found her smile, polite, practiced. Neither did I. Mom came closer, looking between us. So, catching up. The question was casual. The eyes were not. Something twisted in my chest. This was the moment. I could keep it safe, pretend it was nothing, or I could let everything we'd been dancing around crash into the open. Anna glanced at me, a flicker of plea in her eyes. I knew what she was asking, don't. But I thought about the years. About never knowing if the way she looked at me back then had been real, or if I'd imagined it. About the nights since she came back, and the way each one had left me wanting more, not less. I've been seeing her, I said. It came out too blunt, too fast. Mom's eyes narrowed. Anna's went wide. Seeing her, Mom repeated. Anna turned to me sharply. You don't have to. I do, I said. My hands were shaking, but I didn't care. Because if I don't now, I never will. The silence that followed was thick. Mom's expression shifted, confusion, anger, maybe hurt. You're telling me you're... Yes, I said. It's not what you think. But it's also exactly what you think. Anna let out a breath, half laugh, half sigh, like she'd been bracing for this since the day she walked back in. We didn't plan. No one ever does. Mom cut in. I stepped out from behind the bar, standing next to Anna. You can hate it. You can hate me. But I'm not pretending anymore. Anna's hand was resting on the counter. Without looking, I covered it with mine. Her fingers tightened, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough to tell me she wasn't pulling away. Mom looked at our hands, then at our faces. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she turned to Anna. You should go. Anna didn't move. Mom's eyes softened. Not much, but enough for me to see the years of friendship buried under the tension. Before I say something I can't take back. Anna's grip on my hand loosened. She looked at me, and in her eyes was everything. Regret, relief, and something close to love. I'll call you, she said softly. You better, I said. She left without another word. The bell over the door, marking the end of something, or maybe the start. I turned back to Mom, expecting the storm. But she just sighed, shaking her head like she was already tired of carrying it. You always did like trouble, she said. I didn't answer. My pulse was still in my ears, my hand still warm from Anna's. And for the first time, I didn't care how messy it got. A week passed before I saw her again. Not here, not at the bar, but on a park bench near the river, coffee cup in hand, coat pulled tight against the wind. I almost walked past, almost let her stay where she was, untouched by whatever I might bring. But then she looked up, and that was it. You found me, she said softly. You weren't hiding, I replied, sitting down beside her. For a moment, we just listened to the river, the soft churn of water against stone. How's your mom? She asked. She's fine, I said, not thrilled. But she's not shutting the door, either. Anna nodded, like that was more than she'd hoped for. I thought she'd hate me forever. She might, I said with a small smile. But she'll hate me too, so at least it's even. Her laugh was quiet, almost reluctant. I didn't want this for you. I did, I said. I just didn't know it until now. She took a sip of her coffee, eyes on the water. You know, we could walk away. Call this whatever it was. Leave it here. I let the idea hang in the cold air. It was the safe choice. The smart one. But it felt like trying to put a fire out by ignoring it. Do you want to? I asked. Her lips pressed together. I don't know. I looked at her. Really looked. At the lines time had drawn on her face, at the steadiness in her eyes that still carried something reckless underneath. Then let's not decide yet, I said. She turned to me, surprised. You think we can just keep going without a plan? Not forever, I said. Just for now. Her hand was resting on the bench between us. Slowly, I placed mine over it. No rush, no hesitation this time. She didn't pull away. For a long time, we sat like that, not speaking, not deciding, just letting the noise of the river and the chill in the air fill the spaces words couldn't. When she finally stood, she looked down at me and smiled. A small, uncertain thing, but real. See you around, she said. I watched her walk away, wondering if around meant tomorrow, next week, or never again. But for the first time, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like we were still somewhere in the middle.